It doesn't feel like it, but football is right around the corner, and a yearly tradition on this channel is to get on here in the offseason, look at every single division, and predict every team's record game by game. So this is the third year doing it now. Should be tons of fun. If you enjoy, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. And hey, we're on Spotify now too. Check us out over there. Let's kick it off here with the best team in the NFL, the Cleveland Browns, otherwise known as the best-run organization in professional sports. They're my favorite team, unfortunately. Yes, I suffer from depression. This is a team that this offseason had an interesting approach. Sure, they dominated the draft. They got Mason Graham, Carson Schwarzenegger, two guys that will help dominate in the front seven on the defensive side of the ball. But on offense, they said, well, we're going to let Nick Chubb go. And we got to deal with Deshaun Watson. So for a franchise that's never been able to figure out the quarterbacks, we're just going to get as many as possible and see if one of them can work. That's kind of the strategy we went with. So we not only have Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, we brought in Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. So today, on your screen now, you'll see how this kind of format works for these videos. Over the next couple weeks, we'll go through every single team. For the Cleveland Browns, I'm going to try and fit in all four of these quarterbacks because unless we are a playoff team, I can see that being a real possibility as it looks like now we're not going to be carrying or we're not going to trade any of these four quarterbacks. We're going to keep all four of them on the roster. So let's get them all in one season. I believe Joe Flacco will be the day one starter, and I think he opens up the season back in Cleveland with the home crowd behind him. We have Joe Burrow's number with a win. I think we get a big win there. But then it goes all downhill. Then we lose in Baltimore, Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota, and then I think this is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Joe Flacco loses his fifth consecutive game to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that is going to be the first replacement. Joe Flacco will be out being a mentor for the rest of the season. Kenny Pickett enters as the starting quarterback. Let's see what he does in his tenure. I think he gets a win in his first game against the Miami Dolphins. We're at home with the home crowd. The crowd in Cleveland's always packed. We sell out almost every single year. And we just have a defensive line that can get after this poorly built offensive line in Miami. And we're going to be able to get after Tua, put a lot of pressure on him. And we're going to be giving Miami, their defense, a look that they haven't seen all year with Kenny Pickett as our quarterback. So again, we get a pretty big win there. And for Miami, I don't think they're going to be good anyway. After that, we lose to New England. Going into the bye week, unfortunately, I don't think we come out with any juice. I think at this point, we know the season's over, and we're going to come out flat. We're going to lose to the Jets, to Baltimore. They're going to sweep us. And then we're also going to lose to the Las Vegas Raiders. So we're 2-9. It's time for the third change. Dillon Gabriel now gets his opportunity. Let me see how he does. I think he loses his first game, even though he's at home. The Niners, if they're healthy, it's hard to ask any first-time starter to beat a Kyle Shanahan-led team. So, where he's going to lose that one, but get a huge win against Cam Ward and the Titans at home. They're in, week 12 or 13? After that, I think we lose pretty bad to the Bears and the Buffalo Bills. So, I think the front office looks at our team and they say, we're 3-12. We got to see all four of these guys play so we know what to do in this offseason. I think this is where Dillon Gabriel, not necessarily because he plays bad, but because we want to see all four of these guys on the field. Shedeur Sanders will be the quarterback of the last two games, and he's going to lose this first one as well. I think Pittsburgh, tough defense on the road. It's hard, or at home, It's hard to imagine any first-time starter beating a Mike Tomlin-led team. So I think they're going to lose that one, but then they're going into Week 18 against the Bengals backups in my predictions, given where I have them in the playoff picture. And I think they can win this game, but at the end of the day, we're going to have the number one overall pick going into this matchup against the Bengals. And what is Shedeur going to do with this team? Well, we're going to do what Cleveland always does. We're going to ruin it for ourselves, and Shedeur is going to win this ball game to close out the season. We're 4-13, so I don't think it's going to be a great year. But I think an interesting part is that we're going to set history to a degree. The only other franchise to have four starting quarterbacks in a singular season to each win at least one game was the 2015 Houston Texans. Both of these teams are eerily similar. A great backfield, a dominant defense led by a Hall of Famer, and an okay coaching staff. For the Texans, you got some gems here, man, at quarterback. Brian Hoyer, who's a Browns legend with Brandon Weeden, Ryan Mallett out of Arkansas, and TJ Yates as well. A lot of throwback names there on that list. You know the Browns quarterbacks, of course. The only difference with these two teams, the Texans still managed to win the AFC South and go to the playoffs. Absolutely insane with that many starting quarterbacks. But the Browns, 4-13, not going to be pretty. Now let's move on to the Ravens. They've dominated this division for some time now, and this is a team that had a pretty good draft. Getting Malachi Starks pairing next to Kyle Hamilton looks to be a exciting safety duo on the back end, which they desperately need help in that secondary, especially as far as ball hawking. And then for Mike Green, he had some off-the-field questions going into the NFL draft. As of right now, it looks like he's going to play week 1. So as of right now, they have 2 huge additions to this defense, and they didn't really add much. They didn't really lose much. Sure, they added DeAndre Hopkins. I guess that's a big name. But outside of that, I look at this roster and I say, they might be the most complete roster in the AFC, and they have a quarterback that's hungrier than ever to get down, to get to the top of the mountain, and to win the Lombardi Trophy. So in week 1, dare I say, it is the most important game on their schedule, maybe even for the Buffalo Bills. I think it's going to have huge first seed implications written all over it by the time the season ends. And I think Baltimore, on the road, avenging their divisional loss in the playoffs last year, gets a big win to open up 2025. After that, they go through my Browns with these. They beat Detroit, who is a very interesting matchup there. But given the fact that Baltimore's at home, given the fact that Detroit is going to be adjusting to new coordinators and a different offensive system to a degree, and also, Lamar's 27-1 against NFC opponents. So that paired with them being at home, I'm going to give the edge to the Baltimore Ravens. Now, week 4 is when they get their first loss. They're going to go to Arrowhead, tough place to play. You've had 3 tough physical opponents before this. You go to a 4th. I'm going to give the edge to Mahomes and this legendary duo of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Now, after that, you bounce back and really pretty because you have 2 home games before the bye and 1 after. I think you win all 3 of them against very playoff-level teams. So when you look at your first 8 weeks of action, you have everybody but the Browns on your schedule that could be playoff teams, and you win 6 of them. That's impressive for the Baltimore Ravens. Now, second half of the year, yeah, I think you open up. I think you beat Miami on the road. Then you go to Minnesota. Now, I don't think that Lamar likes losing to NFC teams because, well, he doesn't do it. But you got to lose at some point. So I think you go into Minnesota, tough environment with a quarterback in J.J. McCarthy at that point is going to be settled in and running this offense at a high level, or at least presumably. So you lose that one on the road. It's going to be Lamar's second or third loss against an NFC opponent. Still, great record, right? Then you bounce back, you sweep the Browns, and you beat the Jets with ease as well. Again, being at home helps a lot. After that, you lose your first home game of the year against the Cincinnati Bengals. Last year, we had some instant classics between Burrow and the Bengals and Lamar and the Ravens. Those 2 matchups that they were absolutely electrifying. So I'm expecting nothing different as the rosters haven't changed much, especially even the coaching staffs. After that, you beat Pittsburgh, you get another win against Cincinnati to split that season series, and you beat New England at home as well. So going into the last 2 weeks, you need 1 win to secure the number 1 seed, and I think you get that late in the season. On the road in Lambeau, tough matchup, but I just think they're a better roster and better coached than the Green Bay Packers. So I'm going to roll with the Ravens in that one, and they secure the number 1 seed in the AFC. Excuse me. So going into Week 18, they're playing the full starters of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're going to lose that one. The Steelers are still fighting for playoff implications at that point in time. Still, 13-4, number 1 seed in the AFC. Safe to say I believe in this team. Now, talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, this is a team that now has Aaron Rodgers chasing number 7. Interesting offseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They lost pretty much their entire 2024 offense from left tackle to quarterbacks to all of the weapons around them. It's a new look for Arthur Smith and this offense this year. Most notably, they brought in DK Metcalf and Aaron Rodgers, like I mentioned a moment ago. But I also think they had a great draft. Getting Derek Harmon in the first round next to Cam Hayward and TJ Watt, It's going to be rough for these AFC North offenses. Caleb Johnson offensively is going to be the bell cow. Pittsburgh loves bell cow running backs, and he's going to carry the workload of this offense from year number one. Will Howard late in the round or late in the draft, I like that addition as well. Can learn from Rodgers from a year, and then maybe next year you have your quarterback in Will Howard to take over the helm. That is typically how Pittsburgh likes to do it anyway, right? Groom a guy in to being the franchise guy. But now let's kick it off in their season. I think they open it up hot because that's what Pittsburgh always does. They open up hot and then they kind of slow down. I think that doesn't change. Rodgers playing his old team in the New York Jets on the road. You get a win there, man. Rodgers has something to prove. In his farewell tour, he starts it off on the right note. Now, at home against the Seattle Seahawks, tough football game. I think the Steelers are going to escape in this game in typical Pittsburgh fashion, maybe in like a 9-6 football game, just field goals galore. That just seems to be Pittsburgh's MO, right, early in the season. After that, you lose to New England on the road, tough environment. Mike Vrabel has those guys ready to play, and you lose to Minnesota before the bye week. So you're 2-2 in Rodgers' first month. Not bad at all. But how about after? You think you open up the bye week, oh, you're fresh early in the season, you beat the Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals, but then you have another big-time game, not for the roster, but for Aaron Rodgers, facing his former team, the team where he made a legendary career out of himself, the Green Bay Packers, at home in Pittsburgh. You think he has the win here, but I'm going to give it to Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. I think they come in, this is where the Packers turn their season around, and Rodgers beats one of his former two teams. Still, pretty good record in that regard. Then, after that, you beat Indy, and then you go through a tough stretch. But this is why I'm not a big fan of early bye weeks, because when you look at the first 4 weeks, tough stretch, no doubt about it, given the fact that everybody's fresh, and those are going to be 4 physical football teams that they play. Now, after the bye week, it doesn't get any easier. Outside of the Bengals, who are a divisional matchup, those matchups are always, played to a higher degree. You have the Browns, Packers, Bears, Chargers, and Colts. All of those teams are run-first teams that are going to punch you in the mouth no matter win or loss. So for the Steelers coming out of their bye week, I have them struggling a little bit. Again, you see the record 5-6 after the first 12 weeks. Not a great Pittsburgh thing, right? This is a team that has a legacy under Mike Tomlin. They've never had a losing season, but can they continue that streak? Let's take a look, man. I don't think it happens, man. You have to win. You have to at least beat, the Chargers. You have to either sweep the Bengals. You have to get 2 of these wins in the early stretch of the season that I didn't give them. And at that point, you're asking for pretty much perfection with a very tough schedule. Now, it's not unlike Pittsburgh to overperform early in the year, but still, just logically speaking, it's very tough to do. Now, these next 4 weeks, you have Buffalo, Baltimore, Miami, which I think you win, but Detroit as well. This is a very tough schedule for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think you lose 3 of those games. I'll give you the win against Miami. So to close out the year, you have no chance to finish above 500, but I think you do get 2 wins to close out the year. You sweep the Browns, so a little bit of a morale victory in that regard. And then Baltimore, you're playing their backups. You get a big-time win there. To close out the year. So 8-9 is not outside of the realm of possibility, but I just can't see this roster with some of their questions making a playoff push. So I think they're right outside at 8-9, still a solid season. Now, I don't know what's different in the water over there in Ohio. I am in Ohio. But I don't know what's different over here compared to every other city and every other state, because these 2 teams cannot figure out how to run an organization at a very high level. This is a Bengals team that has still not signed their first-round pick in Shamar Stewart. There's now reports that if Shamar Stewart doesn't sign, he can actually enter the NFL draft next season and get drafted by a different team. That is in the new CBA rules. So that's interesting. Do I think that's going to happen? No. But this is a team that had so many defensive struggles last year, and it got worse. They lost Sam Hubbard because he decided, I would rather retire and make you pay my cap hit than to play for a different organization. Trey Hendrickson, which was the sack leader last year, despite having no other help around him, you are refusing to give him the money that he wants. This is an organization that's not paying their players. They're not treating their players and families with respect at all, as we saw with the grades at the end of last season. This is an organization that, despite the struggles being on defense, they're making no efforts to figure it out and improve that side of the ball. You have a great defensive coordinator and an offense that's ready to win a Super Bowl, but you cannot figure out the defense. It's mind-boggling to me that these organizations in Ohio cannot figure it out. They have a top 3 quarterback on their team, and they cannot figure out the defense that when it was good, Joe Burrow led them to the Super Bowl. So figure it out, get some defensive players in the right spots, and just as long as the offense is healthy, you're going to make a run. So to kick off the year in typical Cincinnati fashion, I think you start slow. You lose to the Browns in a shocker week 1, but you get it together in week 2. You beat the Jacksonville Jags at home, but then you go on the road. 2 very tough teams. I think you win one of these games against the Vikings and or the Denver Broncos. Now after this, you're going to have a tough stretch here because, well, Cincinnati makes it hard on themselves for no reason. You lose to Detroit, Pittsburgh, and Chicago, 3 very physical football teams, but you beat Green Bay and the New York Jets. You head into your bye week at 4-5. Now you need to do what Cincinnati does best, and that is get hot second half of the year. And I think they answered the call. You beat Pittsburgh, you beat New England, you're 6-5, first time above 500, but how do you respond? Well, again, I think they answer the call. You do lose to Baltimore, but outside of that, this is the stretch that puts them into the playoffs. You beat Buffalo, Baltimore, Miami, and the Arizona Cardinals, some at home, some on the road. But I think this is, again, in typical Cincy fashion, you get hot late. Now, again, going into the last week of the season, due to where I have Baltimore so far ahead in the division, this is a team that could rest their starters in Week 18. If that's the case, I think the Browns get a big-time win with Shedeur Sanders at the helm in that one. So 10-7 on the year. Let's take an overview, though, man. A lot of talking there, wins and losses, off seasons, no off seasons. But here is an overview. I'll do this for every single video. The Ravens 13-4, the number 1 seed in the AFC, and they make the playoffs as well. The Bengals are 10-7. They make the playoffs in the wild card range. The Steelers, their streak of being 500 and over is officially over, and this is actually going to be a blessing in disguise because for the first time in Mike Tomlin's era, he can reset. He can take the pressure off a little bit on himself and finally find the right pieces at quarterback to go forward and to rebuild this team to greatness, which is where they were for so many years with Big Ben. And then at 4-13, to no one's surprise, the Cleveland Browns. Honestly, I might be generous here giving them 4 wins. Honestly, I could see them being a 3-win football team, but given the fact that we might get the number 1 pick in Week 18, I think in typical Browns fashion, we're going to ruin that for ourselves. So, we're 4-13, top 2 pick in the NFL draft with a team we'll mention in later episodes. But hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, support us down below, man. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel, if I can talk correctly. This is what happens when you record in bulk. And go down to the comment section, more importantly. Let me know what I got right, what I got wrong, and we'll talk about it down below. Last thing, we're on Spotify now, so check us out over there.